digital marketing.
Okay, gotcha. Cool, cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. So we are getting live here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. For anybody who's joined in on Zoom, fantastic. I love having you here. And know that at any point you can interrupt me. In a lot of the classes I teach, I'm inviting students to interrupt me. So know that I'm well prepared for that. There's a few ways you can engage, though. It is being live streamed, so know that if you want to remain anonymous, then type your questions into the comment section. And for everybody who's viewing in through YouTube or LinkedIn, please type your questions into the comment section there. Jane will get those over to me, and I'll do my best to answer those. And I love doing that. I love playing around with questions coming in. You don't have to try to stay on topic. You can ask any question that's career related. My expertise is in social and emotional intelligence. I will tie it back to that. Given that I've been doing this for years now, and I always seem to find a way to do that, but I'll make it meaningful to you. So share your questions in the comment section. And if you're here on Zoom, you're welcome to come off mute and ask a question. So today's topic that I was excited about it last week when Jane and I picked it, and then so many things happened this week that like brought this topic to life. So I am looking forward to diving into this with you. So we're looking at conflict, communicating challenging things. We have all kinds of hangups around straightforward communications. And as you develop in your career, it's going to require tough conversations. And I want to kind of set an overview of what might fit into a category of tough conversations. There could be a tough conversation around giving somebody feedback about their job. There could be a tough conversation around a new development happening, and perhaps somebody who's working on a project is now being taken off of that project, and their feelings are going to be hurt. And to communicate that in rapport with them is probably going to be a tough conversation. There's so many ways that I and most people I know try to avoid conflict, moment-to-moment conflict, uncomfortable things in relationship. But most of us try to sugarcoat stuff. We've got, years and years of practice doing that. So how do we engage in tough conversations? And what are the benefits of engaging in tough conversations? So how I'm going to start with this is I'll say that an important thing is to prepare for it, is to prepare for a challenging conversation. If I'm winging it, if I'm going into something that I know is a challenge for me and I have not prepared, then like the chances of me doing better than I would have just done kind of unconsciously are not high. So preparing for a challenging conversation is one of the most important things you can do. I was doing interview coaching this week. That's a challenging conversation for most people. If I'm going into an interview, I'm scared. I feel uncomfortable talking about myself. I want the job, or I don't. Maybe I don't even want the job. But when I'm going into that interview, the pressure is on, the attention is on me, and I feel anxiety about that. And so it's going to be a good idea for me to prepare, to practice talking about myself, practice bottom lining things, and practice interviewing the interviewer, practice not being desperate, practice not oversharing, that kind of thing. Whatever my makeup is, for some people, you might not share enough. And so that might be what you need to practice, is saying a little bit more about yourself. I've found that especially with people further along in their career who've done a great job, often they're not used to it. Like, let's say somebody worked at the same company for 10 to 20 years and now they're transitioning somewhere else and they're just like, I'm just good at my job. I'm just good at what I do. I'm not used to talking about myself. So that can be an area where then you need to lean in and rehearsing, practicing, using a coaching session to get feedback and practice things out, or practicing with your mirror, practicing with your phone. Now we all got these, we use these devices all the time for so much crap. So they also are good at recording and can be used growthfully. And so when I'm preparing for a speaking event, I use my phone a lot. I record myself talking and I watch it back and I'm uncomfortable with it. And it's like, oh, look at how I'm doing that. And yeah. But it helps me refine what I'm doing. And on another level, it just helps me be with the discomfort of being seen. It helps me be with uncomfortable things that are going to come up in the tough conversations. So, I mean, it might sound kind of obvious and you probably already thought of it, but preparing for a tough conversation is incredibly important. I've had so many clients who that's one of the primary ways they use me. They use a coaching time with me is to practice and rehearse a challenging conversation that they're going to have. Okay, I think maybe I was going to share a story a little later on, but yeah. I'll share a little later on. I want to make another point before I share some examples is, and while I'm doing that, if you are joining in, I'm here almost every Wednesday from noon to 1. Last week I was barely on. There was a terrible headache and I tried to join in anyway. And, way to go me for trying it. And then I gave up quickly. But so I'm here almost every week. I love it when you join in. I love it when you have questions. Again, your questions you don't have to try to stay on topic. If you're not working on tough conversations right now and you've got a resume question, an interview question, or how do I be satisfied in my career question? I will probably tie it back to tough conversations, but you just need to put the question in. You can put it into the comment section, or if you're here on Zoom, you can type it into the chat. So let me know about any questions that you have at any point during this. Feel free to come off mute or type your questions into the chat or comment section. So again, the first thing of going into a tough conversation that doesn't break trust, what you want to do is prepare. And another thing that is really helpful to know is that awkwardness or discomfort in the conversation does not mean that anything's wrong. In fact, it probably means that it's going better than you think it is. And one of the coaches and thinkers that I really, really appreciate on this topic is a guy, Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference. He looks at communications through hostage negotiation situations. He was with the FBI in New York for a while. And so one of the things that he points out is that if a negotiation is going really well, if it's just so smooth and it's like, oh, good, it's nice to finally have an easy one of these. He learned that meant it was doomed. He learned that if something's going really smoothly, it's too good to be true. And so when you're in a tough conversation, when you're preparing for that tough conversation, it can be helpful to recognize that, yeah, it's going to be awkward. I'm going to feel afraid. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean that something's going wrong. I actually want to pay attention to what's uncomfortable to me. That's going to help me better connect with the person. So if I'm bringing up feedback to somebody at work and I'm noticing that it seems like they're not really, hearing me, and then I want to dig in on that. I would say, I noticed that it doesn't sound like what I'm saying is landing. Help me understand. And that's a catch point. That's where there's a catch in the relationship. There's something sticking, and we're not moving forward. And so by addressing that, then I have to be open to hearing something like, yeah, George, when we started this project, you didn't create that expectation clearly. And so here I am thinking I'm doing a good job. And you never told me that specifically. And I'm like, oh, shoot, you're right. I didn't. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Now, and I got to be with the discomfort that I made a mistake. And I have to be willing to be open to that kind of thing when I'm in a tough conversation. I need to take 100% responsibility for what I have created in that dynamic. So that's another thing to be looking for when you're preparing for a tough conversation, is to just assume that it's not going to be smooth, and it doesn't need to be. That's another thing. I mean, if it's going great, you don't have to mess it up, but I would encourage you even to say, okay, it sounds like this is going really well. Sounds like you're hearing this feedback well. I want to make sure that if you've got any other questions, that you bring them in. And sometimes too, it might help to model it. I've found this is, one of the things that I've done is to tell people, employees, that to give them some examples of things they can tell me, to say like, George, you're doing this stupidly. George, your system around this doesn't really make sense. To invite, to make it clear that I want their pushback. To make it clear that, George, I don't think you have done enough of this. Like, I want that kind of feedback, and for me to give examples of things that are helpful for me to hear. Because there are, in authority and hierarchy things, like the truth is that we're not all equal. We can be mutual in relationship, but one person's younger, one person's got more education, etc. There's just all kinds of ways that we're not equal. And for me to take responsibility for that means that I might have to give examples of ways that I could invite somebody to have an uncomfortable conversation with me. Because it's not going to be somebody's go-to necessarily, and for lots of good reasons. It's like there's all kinds of ways that we can say that we want more truth, but do we really mean it? And for a leader, for somebody in a position of authority, you're going to need to signal that. You're going to need to show your vulnerability and lead with your own vulnerability if you're going to expect it from other people. So I think that's another thing is about to assume that if everybody's being nice, that meaningful change is probably not happening. And so to be aware of that, and then again, to say to myself, it's okay that this is going to be uncomfortable. I've prepared for this. I'm going to be uncomfortable in it. And my comfort is not the win here. It's this outcome that I'm driving for. So another thing, so I was meeting with somebody on interviewing. So I'll share a story about this, which is to, in the interview, to be aware of my hunger to be liked. Most of us want to be liked by people. It's just, it's a human thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I'm in an interview and that's my agenda is I want to experience that this person likes me, then that becomes a distraction. What's more important is that I'm respected. And so I might want to ask things if I can let myself have some assumptions about the company and the role. One client who was interviewing, I picked up that there was something she didn't like about this company and this job. And I said, if you could just say whatever you wanted to say in the interview and just talk about all the things you don't like, even though you don't even know this for sure, but you've had some experience, what would you say? And she said, okay, well, here's the job title. I suspect what's happening is that these two parts of the company are siloed and nobody wants to deal with the lack of communication happening there. So even though this is a job title, it actually should have these other things listed underneath it. And it should be more of a director or internal relationship manager, something like that. And the fact that they're just trying to, insert a role here without addressing that deeper issue. I actually, as I talk more about it, I don't even know that I want to work there. And I was like, great. Go in and ask questions about what you just said. You need to find out if that's going on in that company or not. Because like you just said, if that's true and they're hiring for you for this position and this amount of pay, and you know that you think the responsibilities are more, find out as soon as you can. And so she did. And sure enough, she was right. And after some rounds in the interviews, they ended up offering her a higher title, higher pay, et cetera. She ended up going with a different company. But what's even better is that she helped them. She helped them recognize stuff that they did not want to look at. And she had challenging conversations in her interview process before she's even working there. So now that company trusts her. And she's on she has a good relationship with people. So again, it didn't matter whether they liked her or not. What mattered was that she was effective and they appreciated that about her. So, that's a thing that a way that if you're interviewing to hold it that way and see if you can get, when I say tough conversations and conflict, it's not like you're necessarily yelling at the person, but like, where can you find some discomfort? Some pushback. See if you can find some of that in the interaction. So, another way of looking at this is that you're developing your internal compass. What matters to you, and that's going to have some pushback. A colleague of mine said he saw a shirt back in the early 90s. It just said, if you're not pissing somebody off, you're not doing much. So take that as you will. So now another point that I want to get into around these tough conversations that don't break trust, that actually build it. So this came up in a course that I'm leading right now. And I can throw a link to that. It's called EQ Foundations. In this course, what we do is we have everybody practicing new behaviors with each other. So it'd be like, imagine this, a group online, except that everybody is talking and interrupting at different times. One person might be saying things that they don't like. Another person might be giving compliments. Another person. And so people are practicing new behaviors in relationship with other people who understand that this is the game. And what it really does is it helps them be more effective at work and in their personal relationships. Because if somebody is struggling with speaking up in a meeting, it's like, oh, I don't want to ask a stupid question, or I don't want to ask something that might take, or, maybe my manager doesn't want me to ask this question because it might be uncomfortable, like that kind of thing. We're so good at shutting ourselves down. We are so trained to suppress our feelings and our thinking and our creativity. We are so trained at that already that when I'm in that meeting, the chances that I'm going to do a new behavior it's a significant challenge. But if I can go into a small group and start practicing this stuff and just interrupting in a way that, even if it doesn't have anything to do with exactly what's happening in that moment, I now am I'm becoming more resilient. It's like, oh, great. I spent an hour and a half practicing a new behavior and I know what it feels like. And I got different feedback from people in the group. I thought everybody was going to hate me. Turns out they liked what I said. Huh, interesting. Okay, now you have that experience. It's so much easier to do that in a meeting then, to raise hand and say, I've had this question, and share the question. Or, I'm noticing this. And again, you're going to feel afraid doing it probably. If that's a new behavior for you, but for you to get practice with that. So I love this class that I'm leading. This is one that I do in my business, and then I also facilitate several other groups with some other organizations. So we're in that one. I'll be starting up the next cohort of that in 2026. If that kind of thing interests you, take a look at it. Another thing you can do is set up a one-to-one time with me. I'm happy to talk for 15, 20 minutes. And often people are able to get more clarity for themselves in that meeting. Say, okay, here's my thoughts, and this has helped me know that I'm on the right path for myself. And I love doing that. I have had so many mentors in my life help me get more clarity about things. So if that's something that you want, take a look at that, set up a time one-to-one with me. I know jumping in here while this is live streaming is, new territory, although I welcome you to do it. And then if we're looking at a bigger project, if you want to talk about a coaching relationship with me, we can do that there as well. While I'm on it, while I'm sharing things, let's go ahead and throw in also the personality assessment. There's all kinds of personality assessments out there. The main point for this one is to learn how to style shift, to recognize other personality styles and adjust my language so that they hear me better. I use this every day. I use this with my wife. I use this in relationship with coaching clients. I use this all the time. So take a look at that. It's a quick assessment. And there's a video that will help you dig a little further into it. So I brought up the class that I'm leading because we're looking at unfinished business. So how all of my reactions, my emotional responses that I have moment to moment with people, how all of that comes through the lens of projections and transferences, things from earlier in my life. So while I may feel hurt by something that somebody does that I'm working with, only 80 to 90% of that has to do with the past. So only 10 to 20% of that has anything to do with the relationship right now. Just like with my wife, it may be true that she's on her phone and I want to talk. And so then I have this emotional response, and it's true that, maybe let's say that we're out or at dinner and she's doing that while we're eating. Like, yeah, I think I have a right to feel hurt about that. I think that's true. I think it's valid. But the fact that in that moment, I'm like so hurt. Most of that has to do with me being the youngest child in my family and being kind of overlooked and forgotten about and like avoided in ways and that early childhood stuff. So we were talking about all this in class and applying it and looking at how it is that people engage in meaningful interactions when we're so trained to be just transactional and kind of out of it and not really making meaningful contact. And so there was like, oh yeah, on that side, there's conflict. Like there's a lot of conflict, whether it's unconscious or not, that's happening there. So do we ever get to a point of resolution? Is there ever a fully sustained, like, is it possible to be in a relationship with no conflict? Somebody asked this question. I was like, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if thank you, Chandra. I don't know if it's possible to ever be in a relationship without any conflict. I don't think so. I think at this point in human evolution, we are in a state of conflict on our planet and with each other. And so I think it's way healthier for me to look at it that way. That it's just about what is the conflict, what conflicts are happening now, and what's the best way for me to address these. Instead of pretending that I'm in some kind of resolution. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not moments of resolution. But I thought that was a really good question that one of the students in class brought up. So I thought I'd share that here. I think it fits in well with this topic of having tough conversations. Another way of saying this is if I'm assuming that there's conflict, then I'm going into communications preparing for war. And that helps me enjoy peace. But if I'm going into communications and I'm pretending that there isn't conflict, I'm pretending that there isn't war, well, it does not go so well. And you know what? We're coming up to the holidays, and I just started thinking about that and how what that means for me. When my wife and I go visit family, there used to be this idea that, okay, I'm going to relax and this is a vacation. No, that's never been true. There's always conflict in my family. And so when we go, we prepare. We talk about what our agendas are. We talk about my wife and I align because my historical pattern would be that I revert to how I was when a child, and I kind of do my dopey act, and I'm adorable and fun, and I just sort of be that kind of a mascot. And then, she ends up feeling hurt and not protected and all kinds of things like that. And then I'm like, what's wrong with you? And, yeah, that doesn't go so well. It sucks. So what we do instead is to recognize that that's going to happen. It's impossible for me with so many years of developing in that system. It's like, no, I'm going to go unconscious. It's going to happen. And so, but I can know that I'm going to go unconscious, and I can choose to say, oh, I'm going to, 3 times out of 10, I'm going to be more conscious. I'm going to choose to align with my wife. I'm going to choose to have her back. I'm going to choose to like make sure that she's doing well. Not my total responsibility. She's a person too, but we're this unit. And if I'm not approaching it this way, then we just have all kinds of resentments. And then when we go into family time this way, we have so much more fun. It's just way more nourishing. And it's taken me years to learn how to, if I'm a passive aggressive F-head, if I act that way And now I'm at a point where like my wife will point it out to me and I can say, you're right. Thanks. Got it. I'll knock it off. But that's taken me like 10 years. And I'm not there yet. Same thing goes for her. There's ways where like she'll just make stuff up that is not true. Like she will go to drama that is unnecessary. And it's been work for me to say, honey, that's not real. Like I get it. I'm not saying that your feelings aren't hurt, but like you're making a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. And I say, yeah, you're right. You're probably right. I hate you for saying it, but you're right. what is that saying? The truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first. so that's a thing to look at as we're going into holiday time, as we're going into whatever meetings and interactions that you're having with your loved ones or at work or in the interview process, is where is the conflict already that I am unconsciously avoiding? And if I can be conscious of it, if I have to pay the price of being uncomfortable to see it. But then it gives me valuable stuff to dig into. Then I can work with it. Then I can have an impact. So I think that's what I want to say now. And I want to invite anybody with any questions around whether this topic or something that you're working on, something that's on your heart in your career. I invite any questions. Feel free to type them into the comment section. Feel free to come off mute and share or type them into the chat. Any questions that you have, let me know. So to recap everything, when you're going into a tough conversation, preparation gives you competence. You're going to experience yourself with more confidence when you prepare. And then as you're in it, if you can develop more of a playful relationship with discomfort, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable, but if you can have that be alive and playful for you instead of criticizing and indicting yourself for feeling uncomfortable, that helps a lot. Man, I mean, I'm such a hypocrite in all of these things. My wife would tell you 10 ways that I am not as playful as I could be. But I'm getting better. I am improving. And then, friction. When friction is met consciously, there's growth in the friction. It actually helps people connect more. And so, again, you prepare for war. If there is peace, then you get to enjoy it more. And you learn to enjoy yourself in the discomfort. Instead of it being something wrong with you, it's to enjoy the aliveness of it, to enjoy how you are on your cutting edge as you are taking meaningful risks in relationship with other people. So I hope this is helpful for everybody joining in. I will be signing off here in a little bit, but if you have any questions, please drop them in, type them into the comment section. Where in your life do you have a challenging relationship? Where in your life is there something that you would want more of from somebody? If you are in a working relationship, do you have a colleague that you would like to have better rapport with? I'll share this one. Yeah, from another coaching session where, they've been coaching with me for a couple of years now. And it's like an onion, like the layers of an onion, peeling back, getting to deeper truths. And they saw for the first time recently that they, essentially have authority issues. That when they are communicating with their boss, that they often don't share helpful things. And their justification for it for a long time before they could really see it was, well, they didn't ask me, and I don't want to distract from what my boss is working on. I don't want to confuse the waters here. I don't want to, insert my own agenda unasked for. But as they've gotten more clarity about themselves and how they function with a team and with a boss, and how they functioned as a child with their parents, what they realized was, wow, I've been pissed off at my parents for 50 years because my parents were not communicating responsibly with each other. And as a child there, I had to pick up the slack to create safety for myself. And then I would be doing that, and it wasn't really my job in the first place. And then my parents would like get mad at me about it. And so then it's like, oh, now I have to like manage them even more. And pretty soon it's like, I'm just operating as much as I can from the sidelines. It happens to be I'm really smart, so I'm good at this, and I do help things get done. But I've kind of learned how to do this and how to be in groups and with authority figures from the sidelines. And it's like, and they had to pay the price of recognizing in their career how much that's held them back, and to feel how sad that is, that if they had addressed it earlier in their life and had developed better relationships with their bosses, that they would have been so much further along in their career. And to be with the pain of that, it's a real pain. There's no way around it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It's upsetting. It's a loss. And so that's another, so I think when they were ready for it, they got there. And now, but it opens up to the possibility now of them having tough conversations with their boss and saying, look, our organization is going through some like tectonic changes right now. Like the whole United States of America is going through some huge shifts right now. And this is impacting our organization big time. And like, I think you need me to communicate more clearly with you. And I apologize that I have not in the past. I apologize that I have not shared observations that I think you need to know. That's on me. And I all I can say is I'm working with a coach, and we're working on this stuff, and I'm seeing things that, I wasn't really conscious of before. And so I want to have that conversation now. And so, that's an example of how to get into a tough conversation, is preparing and owning where you've been wrong, owning your part in how you created this dynamic. You don't have to tell your boss about your relationship with your parents and all that, but it can be helpful for you to know that in yourself and just say, yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't conscious of this stuff earlier, and it's on me. And I wanted to have this conversation because I think that you and I could partner a lot more. And I want to take it to the next level. So, that's a way for you to onboard a tough conversation. I'm glad I thought of that one more example. But I'll be signing off here unless anybody has a question. Something like that, let me know. You can type your question into the comment section. And if you want to review this, these are finding them on LinkedIn is probably impossible, but it's probably a little easier on YouTube. You can go to my YouTube channel where these stream live. And then I also have other things available on YouTube as well. Yeah, Heather, I see your hands up.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for this meeting. And I will say that when it comes to emotional intelligence, or EQ for short, it is in very short supply. And there needs to be more of it happening, not only in personal lives, but in professional lives too, and also in corporate settings, nonprofit settings, and just anywhere where people have to work with other people. The problem here is that when you're dealing with people who are like very stuck in their ways, and see emotional intelligence as a sign of weakness and taking advantage of other people, it does cause a lot of conflict. But I think the whole point here is that when it comes to dealing with problematic people, it's all about how you handle your own emotions, how you identify and scan people from, outside and inside, and just really figure out, oh, this person, is intimidated by me because they're insecure, and it's my job to be the most secure person in the world, and try to, bring them down to my level, quote unquote, and to have them understand, hey, I'm not in competition with you. I want to work with you, and I want to make this, transition as smooth, seamless, as easy as possible for the both of us. But however, if you do cause problems, I'm going to have to, take off my velvet gloves and show you my brass knuckles too, but try to be,
So
professional
where
about it.
Heather, this is great, great recap and underlining. Where is it that what's your cutting edge?
What's my cutting edge? Actually, I'm still trying to figure out my cutting edge. That's the thing. I'm still, learning about myself, and also know too that I'm the kind of person who just gets straight to the point, and I just don't take bullshit from anybody. That's
Uh,
all I know about myself.
okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Heather Lynn.
Thank you. And sorry for the profanity.
Oh, I think at this point it doesn't matter anymore on YouTube. I think you're all good, but I appreciate the care. Since this isn't being broadcast on a paid for service, I think that's fine. But thank you, Heather Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. You too, Miss Coletto. Take care.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care, and I will see you next week. Again, check out the YouTube channel, check out my website, and you're welcome to set up a time to talk with me. And I will be back.